Joining us is the Superintendent of Schools, the West Bloomfield School District, Dr. Hill. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. So I always ask everybody when we get hooked up via Zoom, we can see you now at the hit of a couple of buttons here. Where are you? How are things going? It looks like you're in your home office.
I'm in my office at my work office.
Your work? Oh, you are? Okay, very good.
Yep, yep.
Oh, yeah, of
And
course. Of course. Forgive me.
and I'm doing fine. Things are going well. As can under the circumstances, they're going real well. So, how about you?
I'm doing great, and as I've told, and we've been having this has been like the superintendent broadcast here on the MegaCast. We've been talking to so many superintendents over the last couple of weeks, and why not? Because what you guys are doing is amazing. The school districts have been doing a fantastic job educating, communicating, feeding, getting ready for summer, and so on and so forth. There have been so many different areas that you have had to focus on. And just as a starting point, just a general update on how things are going in your school district.
Sure, I'll take the lead of what you just said. First of all, on the feeding front, we're approaching 60,000 meals that we've distributed since the pandemic event started when we closed down on March 16th. And I just need to give a big shout out to our food service team, all of the support staff that are helping on those distributions. We're distributing food at Roosevelt Elementary School and from Orchard Lake Middle School, and we have teams of paraprofessionals and obviously our food service staff and administrators helping out on that effort. So it's been fantastic. On the education front, we went from face-to-face schooling to remote learning over a weekend. And obviously, we didn't have months and months to plan for that event. But I just need to give another shout out to all of the staff in the West Bloomfield School District. This is right now, we're in Teacher Appreciation Week, Educator Appreciation Week. And I can't express more sincerely the appreciation that I have, and I know that parents and families have, for the job that is being done by our teachers, our principals, all of our support staff in supporting the students and continuing their learning. Obviously, with a platform of remote and distance learning, we are learning as we're going in this process and constantly trying to upgrade what we do on a daily basis. So it's been a very intense time, but having dropped in on a few classes and been a guest reader on some of the classes, it's been a rewarding time as well. It's just a whole different experience for everybody involved.
Dr. Hill from West Bloomfield, maybe give us a little bit more of a glimpse into what it's like in those classrooms. So you've had a chance in those quote-unquote virtual classrooms. You've had a chance to see the students and the teachers interacting virtually. Just what are your thoughts, your impressions for those of us that haven't seen that on the front line?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say you cannot replicate the face-to-face interactions that take place daily in classrooms. Zoom is a platform that we're using. We're using some other platforms as well. In those sessions, the students will join the teacher, and there are planned activities or discussions taking place. And in between sessions, there's a lot of independent work that students are doing. So the teachers have to shift their mindset of what a lesson is, and that's one of the bigger challenges, because our teachers are learning the nuances of distance learning as we're going. And so on any given day, the more interaction that you have, the better. And they're for shorter snippets of time. You cannot, if you're a high school teacher, for example, and you normally lecture for 25 or 30 minutes, you're probably going to have to cut that down to about 6 to 10, and then have some activities and or discussions. Otherwise, you're going to lose people.
Yeah,
So the
and that's just consistent with any other desktop activity. You go to YouTube and you look at the videos, and the average length of a video on YouTube is a couple of minutes. So it is harder to hold the attention. Man, it's undeniable. There are other distractions in the environment where the students are working.
It is, and for example, I'm the president of the Rotary Club in West Bloomfield, and we have meetings, and I've noticed the more successful meetings are where there is more planned interaction between the participants and the presenters, rather than a PowerPoint that goes on for a half an hour, for example. So you need to just be attuned to the new media as it can be helpful, but there are also some challenges to it, that we don't need to replicate what we do in a face-to-face meeting and try to replicate 100% what happens online. That's not it's not possible.
Well, Dr. Hill, it's really good advice, and I'm glad I asked, and thank you for taking the time to tell that story, because that just doesn't impact education. Everyone watching today, everyone listening today is having Zoom meetings. They're having Zoom meetings, to keep their business running. They're having Zoom meetings with family, and it's different. There's upside and there's downside. In my family, maybe with folks that as well, I've actually been talking to them more, and we've had more connections with our family that are scattered around the state of Michigan, and we've been able to communicate. But, with some of our Zoom business meetings, I do see people fading away. Maybe they're on their cell phone, or the other distractions, or something else is going on, or they might have minimized the window on the computer and they're doing something else. So you're right, taking these things and putting them in maybe 10 or 15-minute bundles, or even shorter. It seems to be a better way to communicate in this environment. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and that's true with students, and it's true with adults as well. I just came from a principals meeting. It was an hour-long meeting, and there was a lot of interaction. The segments in the meeting were no more than 7-10-minute presentations, if you will, but there was a lot of dialogue, a lot of interaction, and without that, you don't watch TV that long without distracting. You're not going to tune into a meeting that long, although the subject matters of the meetings are very important, but we just need to be respectful of that. There was an article I read recently, Crystal Jabiro, she's a teacher at Orchard Lake Middle School, and I think the article said we need to go from crisis schooling to remote learning, and her point was, we made the switch over a weekend, and we went from face-to-face to virtual because we were faced with a crisis. And so now we are having crisis schooling. But what we need to do, and we're talking about this now for opening up in the fall, we need to think about more seriously or deeply, what does remote learning, hybrid learning look like, and how can we conduct those learning sessions and opportunities more effectively than in a crisis mode?
Dr. Hill joining us from the West Bloomfield Schools. You are the superintendent of schools in West Bloomfield. We thank you very much for joining us. You mentioned you were on a call with principals. I had a chance to talk to your high school principal, Eric Pace, yesterday. We were just having some conversations about graduation in school districts all across our area, trying to figure out that puzzle. And he said he was on a call with 20 other principals. They were sharing ideas and having conversations. So one thing we prefer not to do, I presume, is let this auspicious occasion for our graduating seniors go without the recognition that it deserves.
No, and however it works out, it's going to be a memorable experience. I don't think any other graduating class has had this set of circumstances. The important thing is that we have the opportunity to recognize the accomplishments and the achievements of the graduates and wish them well into their future endeavors. And however we do that, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's a distance socially distanced kind of ceremony or a remote ceremony, whatever it is, the focus needs to be on the students who have earned their degree and what their future holds for them, and wishing them well in that process. So it's going to be I imagine, entirely different. I know that Mr. Pace and his team of administrators at West Bloomfield High School, they have been dialoguing tremendously about this topic. They are, like you said, working with other schools across the region and sharing ideas. And so whatever that we come up with and they come up with, I'm sure it's going to be a memorable experience for the students and their families. It just may be a different kind of experience.
Well, I like that, and I know you're not trying to put a positive spin on it, although you are. But that totally makes sense. You could say, well, this is going to be really tough, but there's going to be an asterisk or maybe a smile on graduation 2020, and we're all going to look back at it 10 or 15 years from now and say, hey, remember that graduation? I was there. I was a part of it. We did it online. And I keep telling people. Look what the NFL did with the NFL draft, and they really turned a mess into something amazing. The NFL draft, which they did totally virtually, looked different. They found a way to bring the homes of all of those graduating collegiate seniors who were going into the NFL, a way to capture that, put it on television. They were able to go into the homes of the head coaches, who we never see a head coach like, those guys are work. They're always in the office. They're always working. We never see them interacting with their family. We got to see coaches interacting with their family, being normal people. And I thought it made for the most exciting, interesting draft we've ever had. And the ratings played out. And the same thing with Saturday Night Live, when they, took Saturday Night Live across the country to the homes of all those individuals. So, yes, I agree. This is going to be a memorable graduation. We look forward to it.
Yeah, one of the things that struck me about the NFL draft was the focus on the relationships with the players and their families and loved ones who were there to support them. And that's one of the things that we're focusing on in education today, is we realize that this is a really tough time for everybody involved. Family dynamics, the situations in all the households are particularly challenging right now. And we need to stay attuned to the environment that students are living in, and we need to be as supportive as possible. I know in the distance learning realm, teachers and parents are doing a lot of communicating because the parent role has changed dramatically. And when we look to the fall, we need to, how do we open an economy and still have students, if we have to have them all not at school at the same time, learning remotely? What does that look like? And we're developing a set of scenarios and plans for the future that take into account the family dynamics, the relationships building that occurs, and just a whole number of issues that and we have about 19 weeks to get ready for it.
Right.
And that's not a whole lot of time to do that kind of planning, but we're going to be ready for the fall, and we don't have an exactly clear picture yet what it will look like, but we do know it's going to be from the spectrum of face-to-face to totally remote, more than likely somewhere in between, where it's a hybrid kind of a model of teaching and learning.
Well, Dr. Gerald Hill, West Bloomfield Schools, I like exactly what you're saying. You're right. The schools do not have the luxury that the NFL, a lot of other events, concerts, hockey, on and on and on. These other entities can simply cancel their activities. They would, I'm sure, do it reluctantly, but they can cancel. You are not going to cancel the 2020-2021 school year. So, your good friend, your now colleague and former principal at West Bloomfield High School, now the superintendent over at Bloomfield Hills, Pat Watson, he was on the show not too long ago. I might have already told you this. I got a great quote from him. He said, Dave, hope is not a plan. And I kind of like that, right? Hope is not a plan. So you got to put a plan together, and you don't know. Nobody can look into their crystal ball right now and say, this is what things are going to look like in September. So you and a lot of other, I think, equally brilliant people are putting plan A, B, and C together, and come the day one of those will get implemented.
Yeah, and actually it's probably going to be a plan that has components A, B, C as a part of it, because I have a feeling that we're going to be struggling with COVID-19 and the coronavirus for a while, and there may be waves, and we may have different kind of situations that pop up, and so we need to be prepared for any scenario that we're faced with, and do it in a way that is thoughtful for all involved.
Yeah, and all of this against a backdrop of, let's just be honest, unfortunately, dwindling dollars. There's going to be fewer dollars. I talked to Dr. Schwartz at Avondale not too long ago on the show, and I don't know where he got this number, but he said, we could lose, and maybe he was just, spitballing it, but he said maybe we could lose $500 a student from the state. No one knows what those numbers are, but whatever the number is, you're going to likely be getting less money down the road.
Yes, and the reality is, to do what we're talking about, the various scenario development, it'll take more resources, not less. And so I think the political conversation that needs to be going on, that is going on in our country right now, we have support from the federal government on 2 or 3 major pieces of legislation that have come out recently. And I'm a strong advocate for taking a look at the state and local government support that needs to come. And I hesitate to use the word bailout, because bailout implies that these entities, school districts, police departments, governments, did something wrong. Where, as a matter of fact, we are all fighting the same crises, and we need to do it in a thoughtful and cooperative and team-like manner. And so the federal government assistance through this crisis, and to backfill, if you will, the revenue losses that are naturally occurring at all the states. Sales taxes are down, for an example, in Michigan. That money will not suddenly crank up come August. And so the federal government has to step in my opinion, and has to do so in a major way, or else the system will even become more difficult to open, the economic system, not let alone the health system.
Are you looking in your district in West Bloomfield and our districts, in addition to trying to plan for next fall, in addition to trying to plan for a commencement ceremony, are you and other districts trying to think about what you might be able to do during the summer as well this year, in recognition that this school year wasn't implemented as planned?
Yeah, we're looking at that, and we have some plans developed where we can more look at the summer as an opportunity to plan more detailed what's going to happen in the fall. But we will be having hopefully some opportunities in the summer for students, not all 5,700, but a summer school that's a little different looking than in the past. And I know that our Assistant Superintendent, Deanna Barish, and her team of curriculum experts and the principals are working on developing some prototype models that we can try out during the month of July and August. So.
Dr. Hill, you've been very charitable with your time. It's always good to talk to you. I am finding these discussions with superintendents to be fascinating. You're normally focused entirely on educating our kids, but I think the education communities and our school districts, these pillars in our communities, have so much more to offer the community at large. So this has been a little bit of an opportunity to get your thoughts on general issues, yours and the thoughts of others. Before we say so long, new normal is scary. Change is scary. It doesn't scare me too much, but new normal is scary. But somewhere in all of this is this challenge that we're facing now giving the education community an opportunity to take an inward look and maybe come up with some new strategies, some new approaches to education that may benefit us after this is all said and done?
Oh, for sure, Dave. You don't get change without some kind of a disruption taking place, in my opinion. This is a total disruption, and it's brought to light some of our practices that we've been doing. We just haven't reflected on the impact of some of the practices. So our challenge is to take advantage of the opportunity to do things differently in terms of student equity and resources, and try to rethink how we do schooling and improve it. And so some of the practices we're engaging in now, maybe for the first time, need to carry over into a new normal. And so I think that new normal will be one of more of us focused on student benefit and student learning. Well, I'm going to put out particularly one that I think we need to really examine, is this whole notion of high stakes testing to evaluate schools, school districts, teachers, administrators. I think the high stakes testing is a way that politicians can say that they're holding school districts accountable. Well, we can hold ourselves accountable, the parents hold us accountable, but we should be accountable for developing the whole child academically, social, emotionally, as a community leader. And a lot of those things you cannot capture on a high stakes test. So I'm hoping for a different approach just in that one area alone.
Dr. Hill, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. It's always good to talk to you. I look forward to being able to get together with you in person. I got my fingers crossed that we're going to have sports this fall, but I'm not any more optimistic about a traditional sports season than I am about anything else. But sure would be nice if we could on Friday nights get together at the football field, but we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you for everything you're doing, and please extend our thanks to everyone in the district. And I'm sure we'll be talking again real soon.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your show.
Very good. Dr. Gerald Hill, West Bloomfield School District, joining us today via Zoom.